In what felt impossible and inevitable at the exact same time, your Toronto Blue Jays are the American League East champions for the year of 2025. It's the first time they clinched the division since 2015. It's the first time they've clinched a division at home since 1992. And it's the seventh time in franchise history that the Blue Jays are division champs. And I say that it felt impossible and inevitable at the same time because where we are truly feels impossible. But how this season plays out, these Blue Jays always felt destined to do this. So let's start with the impossible side of things because 2024 could not have been worse for the Toronto Blue Jays. What this season was what we were expecting 24 to be. And then when we reached the end of 24, where we had a last place team in the American League East, everything was burning down. Everything was hell. The Blue Jays didn't have Vladdy signed all offseason. They couldn't get any of the free agents to sign here, and no one had confidence in the manager or the organization in terms of Shapiro and Atkins running this whole thing. And then we enter the 25 season. Vladdy's still not signed, and his deadline to get signed was opening day. So we're all like, oh my goodness, this franchise is at an all-time low. They haven't won a playoff game since 2016, and here they are going to lose their star franchise player. Well, what happens? Vladdy signs a deal, and I feel like that's a big turning moment for this franchise because it proved that like they can do something. They can get something done here. And after a slow start to the season, it wasn't the best April and May-ish. Things really started to turn around. And for months and months and months through the peaks of the summer, the Blue Jays were the best team in baseball consistently. They got great pitching. They got great hitting. They were spectacular at defense and everything that you needed to do to be an efficient small ball team and do the right things around the baseball diamond. These Blue Jays did it. That was their reputation. We play small ball when we have to. We can run the bases really well. We're always taking advantage of the little opportunities that the other teams give us. And this team rolled along from June, July, and August until we got towards the end of August-ish. And that's where the inevitable started to kind of break down because we saw the hitting dry up, the bullpen started collapsing, and then injuries started hitting this roster. But even through that, with 11 games to go, the Toronto Blue Jays had a 5-game lead on the New York Yankees. And that thing disappeared so darn quickly throughout the entire month of September. But the Blue Jays were able to hold fort and hold on. They go on a 4-game winning streak to end the season, and they finish tied with the Yankees atop the American League East, and they win the tiebreaker, and they win the division. I don't want anyone out there to ever give it to you if you care too much about a baseball game in April, in May, in June, in July, in August, in September, because every single game matters. There's 162 of these things. And even though there's 162 of these things, this division came down to literally one game. The Blue Jays won today because of the efforts they put in for the entire season. They're being rewarded with the AL East crown for beating up on the Yankees throughout the season and winning the head-to-head battle against them. They're allowed to collapse in the month of September because they played so well in June. Every single game matters. You think about all of their comeback wins and their never quit attitude. That's the reason they are American League East champions today. And let's focus on today because this has been quite the turnaround in this little 4-game streak here. And I know that Alejandro Kirk is the star of the game and all of that. And we will get to his amazing game and him breaking out of his slump at this amazing time. We'll talk about that shortly. But for me, the star of the game is Mason Fluharty and the Blue Jays bullpen, because I don't think there's a person out there who is lower on the entirety of the Blue Jays bullpen, maybe outside of like Sir Anthony Dominguez, come late August. I thought that was going to be the reason that this team fails to win the AL East. When things were going bad, I thought that was going to carry through and be the reason they don't get this thing done. But the bullpen has been the thing that's been holding this whole thing together. And I thought Mason Fluharty's performance today, I know the game ended 13-4. I have up on the screen right now on the Jesse Blake Sports Report YouTube channel, where you should like this video and be subscribed to, a 5-pitch at bat that Fluharty had in the top of the fourth inning. The bases are loaded. It's 5-4. The game ended 13-4, but at some point in this game, it was 5-4, and the bases were loaded for the Tampa Bay Rays. And what did Mason Fluharty do but get into this game and deliver a strikeout to save the day for the Blue Jays? In his last 12 appearances, Mason Fluharty has batters hitting 1 for 35. Yeah, that's not an exaggeration. That is just the number. 1 for 35 in his last 12 appearances. Sportsnet Stats had this stat they tweeted out after the game. It says Blue Jays bullpen during 4-game win streak to conclude the season. Innings pitched 20, ERA 0.89. Their whip is 0.84. Strikeouts 26. And this is the big one. 0 inherited runners scoring. I love that Fluharty got the win today, but I love even more that Eric Lauer was able to get the final 3 outs of the evening for this team to clinch the division. You can see there on the screen, they went Fluharty, Varland, Little, Fisher, and then Lauer, because Lauer was always supposed to be in this position in the pen. But when they needed an extra arm in the rotation, Lauer came out as the long man into the starting rotation, and he pitched phenomenally. And then when they needed somebody back in the bullpen because he got pushed out of the rotation because the arms got healthy and they brought in Shane Bieber, Lauer excelled at his job back in the bullpen, and he deserves so much credit for what he's done this season. And that's the ethos of this Blue Jays team. It's truly a team mentality. The amount of times that Schneider goes into his analytics books and brings in a guy just for the analytics sake and whatever percentage advantage they get, and they got to swap in players. Everybody is contributing to this team. It's a full roster of guys all working together as a collective for one common goal. You've seen it with IKF since they brought him back in. You see it with Davis Schneider all season long, them throwing him in and out of the lineup. You see it with Nathan Lucas all the time coming in for defensive help. You see it with Ernie Clement with his ability to play anywhere on the diamond. This team is built to be a full roster that can be used every single game so that the team can put the best people on the field to win each and every game. And I promised we'd get to Kirky, so let's talk about Kirky. For the majority of this season, Alejandro Kirk was a huge bat in this Blue Jays lineup, and he finished the season hitting over 300, which is quite the feat in 2025. But he went on a slump leading into Sunday's game. At the end of Saturday's game, Alejandro Kirk was 5 for his last 50. He was the last person on earth who should have had a game like he had today. But Alejandro Kirk in the second inning stepped up and hit a giant grand slam to put the Blue Jays ahead of the Rays. And nobody needed it more than him heading into the playoffs, because you want that confidence to be there, especially with this time off now that the Blue Jays have. And Alejandro Kirk's defensive abilities are always so strong. They will always be there because you don't lose defense day to day to day. It's always going to be top-notch platinum glove level, but his bat is a thing that can come and go, and it has not gone very often this season, but it did in the month of September. So I'm so happy that Kirk was able to finish the season with the 2 home run, 6 RBI, 1 double performance of the ages that I think every Blue Jays fan is going to remember on the day that they clinched the division. Alejandro Kirk led the way with his, like I said, 2 home runs, 1 double, and 6 RBIs. And let's also not forget the performance of George Springer, who also had a great day today. And it's so fitting that he could finish the season with a home run, because in my eyes, George Springer is the MVP of this Blue Jays team. His performance this year, coming off of last year, and knowing that he is 36 years old, feels the most impossible out of everybody. Remember, George Springer started this year low in the Blue Jays lineup. He was hitting like 6th in this lineup, and nobody really thought that he'd ever be the George Springer of old. And then this season, not only did he have a career year for himself, he had one of the best seasons across Major League Baseball. Sportsnet Stats, again, had this one about George Springer. Since the All-Star break, Springer leads Major League Baseball in on-base percentage at .454, in OPS at 1.121, and in runs with 53. 3. What a season for George Springer. He goes from 56 RBI last year to 84. He goes from 19 home runs to 32, the third most of his entire career. He goes from 19 doubles to 27, a 220 average to 309, his highest batting average of his entire career, along with the highest on-base percentage of his entire career, along with the second highest slugging percentage of his entire career. I don't know about you, but I did not expect George Springer to have this year at the plate, and he delivered in every single way you could ask for out of him this year. He was a heart and soul guy on and off the field. Everybody loved him. He's great in the community. You saw him tarps off at the end of the season with Hazel May celebrating the division championship. I'm so happy for George Springer, and I'm so happy for the season that he had. He's my MVP for the Blue Jays this season. There's so many guys I'm not going to be able to get to. I can talk about everybody on this team. I can talk about Varsho's defense. I can talk about Barger filling such a great gap in this team. I can talk about Bo Bichette almost leading Major League Baseball in hits despite playing 20 less games than the rest of the guys on the list. But the last person I just want to give a shout out to is Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's going through it right now at the plate. It was good to see him get that single in the first inning to bring in Davis Schneider and get this thing going. It wasn't a slump buster because he did end up going 1 for 5 on the day, but it felt good. It felt right to have him open the game there after the Blue Jays went down 1-0 in the top of the first inning, for him to be the one to drive in that first run of the game. It felt right, and it felt kind of like a turning moment, even though it didn't lead to any more hits in the ball game. I hope this next week off can give Vladdy a chance to reset and get that bat right for the American League Division Series. And that is where we leave things right now. A week off for the Toronto Blue Jays. They've truly earned this week off. They can now line up their pitching however they want, and they will face either the New York Yankees or the Boston Red Sox. I didn't know this until Ben Nicholson Smith tweeted this out, but the Blue Jays have never faced the Yankees or Red Sox in the playoffs ever. I would have thought like it would have happened at some point, but they've never faced them ever in the playoffs, and this year will be the first time the Blue Jays play the Yankees or Red Sox. Blue Jays fans, I don't know about you, but I'm not cheering for either one of these matchups. Both teams are good. Both teams will give the Blue Jays a tough fight. I'm just so happy that the Blue Jays earned this week off so they can get healthy, especially for Bo, set up their pitching, have Gausman out there on day one. Who knows when Trey Savage gets in and if it's game 2 or game 3. But the Blue Jays, I think, are going to be the favorites in the series, no matter who they play. And I'm looking forward to that American League Division Championship Series coming up 6 days from today. Thank you for being here. You could have been anywhere in the world, but chose to be listening or watching right now, and I appreciate you for that. Don't forget to hit like. Don't forget to hit subscribe on the Jesse Blake Sports Report YouTube channel, and I'm going to be coming to you with lots of coverage of all of the Blue Jays playoff games. Hopefully, you'll have one of these recaps shortly after each postseason game completes on this Blue Jays postseason run of 2025. Good night from Toronto, home of your American League East division champion, Toronto Blue Jays.